Greetings and salutations, YouTubers. This is Zillafan85, back today with my latest video, my latest figure review. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at my Y-MSF Megalon figure. So I was definitely happy to get a hold of this guy. This is the original release version from Y-MSF of Megalon. They did reissue this as of course they did with many of their other kaiju that they had made figures of. You know, the re-release has a little bit of a different paint scheme and what have you. But you know, I'm definitely very happy to have gotten hold of the original. And you know, Megalon, it's a kaiju that I do like. You know, basically like a beetle sort of kaiju. He appeared in the 1973 film Godzilla versus Megalon. You know, so definitely a movie that I've always had, you know, always had nostalgic memories of watching from the time I was a childhood. And of course, you know, of course I love the robot Jet Jaguar, you know, and I was happy to see him come back in Godzilla Singular Point. But, you know, nonetheless, though, definitely was glad to get a hold of the Y-MSF version of Megalon. I did have the Bandai version initially. It was more in like an 8-inch scale. I wasn't overly thrilled with it, and you know, from what everything I'd seen, Y-MSF just did a much better job with the figure. So again, I was very, very happy to get a hold of this guy. So let's go ahead, let's jump right into it here, folks. We'll start with the paint and the detail. So as you can see, and it is a little dusty, so I do apologize. I try to dust off as best as I can, but you can see the main sort of color scheme for Megalon, almost this sort of brownish, like a sort of brownish gray or brownish black color scheme for like the main part of his body, the main part of his skin. As you can see, you take a look at the head here. It's got that beetle head. Again, that brownish black or brownish gray color, and then of course you got the dulled out silver for the horn on the top of the head here, and it's got that sort of almost like the 4 points on the end of it, almost like sort of like a star sort of look to it. Very, very cool though. I like it, and it's pretty sharp to the touch as well. So very, very awesome. Definitely do like that. And then of course you got his antenna here, sort of done in this sort of yellowish green color, and you see all the segments on the antenna as well. Hopefully the camera picks that up, so you guys can check that out there. And then you've got these almost sort of goldish colored eyes, and detailed very well, very insect-like. You see all the grooves, bumpy segments. The eyes to, again, give it that insectoid look. Very, very cool. I definitely do like that. Again, you got like a silverish color for the jaws or mandibles, whatever you want to call them there. And you can see the detail work on those. And then, of course, you got the inside of the mouth in this sort of pinkish red color, as this is the open mouth version. They also have a closed mouth variant, and of course some different paint schemes as well. The Y-MSF always does that. But obviously, as you can see, I have the open mouth variant. And of course you got the almost like a sort of like, I don't know, like a sort of nostril area here above the mouth as well. You guys can see that. So very, very cool. Definitely captures Megalon's look very well. The arms detailed very well. All the patterning that you would see, again, that brownish grayish, brownish blackish color. And you can see all the segments on his arm, all that detail work, texturing, you know, all the scales along his arm. They really paid attention to detail, really captured Megalon's look very well, like I said. And of course, you got his famous drill arms as well, done in the silverish paint scheme. And again, you got all the detail work on those, very indicative of Megalon, very movie accurate, I would say. Really like that. You got the sort of this neck area again with more of that detail work that was signature of Megalon's design. And of course all the segments there running from that strip that goes from his chest all the way down to like the tip of his tail here. And of course you got that patterning done in this sort of orangish color, which is somewhat right. I think it should be like a yellowish orange color, but it still looks pretty good nonetheless. It's still very indicative of Megalon's design. But you can see all the patterning there. It bows out onto the sides, onto his shoulders as well, and then of course you see on the wings on the back as well all the patterning, and then of course you got those sort of black lines that he's got as well on his wings. And they really captured his look just so well. I think I'm very impressed by this figure. And then of course you got the legs and all the segments on the legs and the scales and whatnot. And you could really feel all the texturing all over when you rub like his arms and his legs and whatnot. Really awesome. And of course he's got those two pointed claws on his feet there, done in this sort of silverish color. Really like it. Hopefully the camera's picking it up decently enough. Definitely do like it. And then of course you got the copyright information, Y-MSF, on the bottom of his foot, and then of course the Toho information there, 1973 for the film, and then 2009, which I believe is when this sculpt was initially made. So you guys can see all that there. Very cool. Now you got all the segments and the scales running along the tail here, as well as the silverish spikes done on the tail. You got the larger one that's sort of where the tail joins into the main body, and then they sort of get smaller as you go down his tail. But I definitely do like that. And again, they are pretty sharp to the touch. All the claws and spikes are. So I definitely do appreciate that. So that pretty much does cover it for the paint and the detail here. Megalon is a pretty detailed kaiju, so and Y-MSF, like I said, I think they did a great job capturing his look. And so next up, we'll take a look at Articulation. Not too much here. His head, as you can see, it's sort of, I don't know, in this joint that they put in place, so it kind of bobbles around. You can sort of turn it a little bit. And then otherwise, it's just kind of, it's just the way that the design is, where it's kind of loose and kind of bobbles. So he's like a bobblehead almost, but still pretty cool. I think it adds to the caricature a little bit. The arms can both swivel. So as you can see there, they are going to be kind of impeded by the legs, as you guys can see. So getting them all the way around, not going to be the easiest thing to do. And then if you raise his hands in the air like you don't care, you can also rotate the legs, though not the easiest. And again, they kind of rub up against the arms. So, and you know, really the way that the sculpt is done, you're not really gonna get full range of motion, but you see it, you can kind of go back about yay far. So kind of do the splits like that, and then of course, you know, again, rotating them forward. But the way that the sculpt is done, you're not really going to get full range of motion out of that. And then the tail, you actually have a couple segments here. You got where it meets, the base of the tail meets and it joins into the main part of his body. That can rotate around. You can basically get it to go 360, as you guys can see there. Don't know how much I would recommend this, though, just because of the way that the joints are designed. And then, of course, they have another joint in the midsection of the tail, so you can rotate that as well. But again, as you can kind of see, the joint wants to pop out of place. So kind of, as you guys can see, I mean, you can pop it back in, but it's meant for like very limited range. So again, I would, as you guys can see there, the way that happened, I would not recommend trying to overextend it, over rotate it. So it's just the way that these joints are designed. So just kind of keep that in mind. But not too bad. I mean, basic articulation, not too bad though, for what it is. So I definitely do appreciate that. Now for sizing, let's go ahead, let's take a look here. I have my ruler first off. And let me bring the camera in just so you guys can see. So you see kind of with the horn, standing him up, that you're getting roughly in that 6-inch range. He is hunched over, as you guys can see. That's just the pose that they have him in when they did the sculpt. So it's a little hard to judge, but he's basically, especially with the horn, in that sort of 6-inch range. And he would probably be, if he was standing upright, he would probably be a little taller. So probably more like 6.5 inches or so. But not too bad. And just as a size comparison, the figure I brought out for this is none other than Jet Jaguar, his opponent in the movie here. So thought this would be a good scope. Now this Jet Jaguar, this is the movie Monster Series version, the older release one. They did reissue this. But you guys can sort of see the way that they scale up next to each other there. So again, Jet Jaguar is stands a bit higher. He's more in like closer to the 7-inch range. But again, if Megalon was standing upright, and especially with his horn, there'd definitely be around similar height. So, so considering what it is, especially with him in that hunched over pose, I still think it sizes in quite well, and they look really good on a shelf together. I actually have both of these right near each other on my shelf. So definitely like it. Definitely do recommend that. And now otherwise for pricing, again, this is a Y-MSF figure. Y-MSF figures are not like your standard Bandai figures and whatnot. These are fairly rare because they're made in limited production, and that's whether you get the original release or the reissue. And so unfortunately it's one of those situations where you're gonna have to pay to play. So I've seen these going for, I've seen them over $100. These figures, honestly, anytime I've looked online, especially more so like over 150, between like $150 to $200 is a lot of times the sort of standard price range that I've seen these in. The reissues you might be able to get for a little bit less, just because they are a little more readily available than the original releases. But still, that you're just going to have to keep that in mind. That's kind of what you're looking at as far as pricing goes for these figures. So definitely something to note here, folks. But other than that, that's about it. One thing I do want to mention before I go ahead and conclude this video is my buddy Godzilla Fan Freaks, who was a big inspiration for me to get started into doing these figure reviews and whatnot. He wanted me to mention he's been doing pretty much on a weekly basis now what he calls Kaiju Chill O'Clock. Where basically he's on there, he's doing a live stream, he appreciates any engagement he can get. you know, he's watching Godzilla films or, you know, an MST3K versions of Godzilla films, and just kind of sitting back and snacking and hanging out with anybody who joins in, and you know, trying to pretty much answer any questions, any comments that come in during the live stream. I've been trying to catch it as often as I can. You know, just obviously with things going on with me, I can't always manage to do so, but I have been trying to catch it. It's been really, really fun. He starts off on his YouTube channel, which he's been doing in roughly 2-hour segments. Then he switches to Facebook, doing Facebook Live from there, and then he switches to his Instagram. Definitely really a cool thing. I did promise him that I would go ahead and plug it for him. So just to let you guys know, if you do want to try and check it out, his days off from work are Thursdays and Fridays. So just depending on what he's got going on either of those days, when he's off, he's trying to do his live stream then. He's in Arizona, so he's in Mountain Standard Time. So he's been roughly starting his streams around 11 or 12 Mountain Time, you know, afternoon time there, I should say. And so, you know, and it's been either Thursdays or Fridays. He tries to announce, mainly on his Facebook page and Instagram and whatnot, ahead of time when he is going to be streaming that week. So if you guys are interested, I definitely do recommend checking it out. Like I said, I've tried to join as often as I can. It has been really fun. You know, I've been commenting, asking him questions, and it's just really, really cool. So I definitely do recommend it, folks. But other than that, I think that about covers it for this video. I would definitely like to thank you so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you would like to like and or comment on any of my videos, please feel free to do so as well. And just remember, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you be good to yourselves, and sayonara.